Hi there everybody, my name's Amy here with Authentically Amy, and I'm here today to give you a quick lesson on all of the different kinds of interfacings and battings because I think a lot of people get confused of what to use in what scenario. So this is a common question I get. So the first thing we're going to talk about is batting when you're making a quilt. And there's a couple different kinds of batting, and there's some different qualities of each of those battings, right? So batting is that thing that goes between the quilt top and the quilt back. It's that filling, okay? And here is a cotton batting, okay? Just a piece you can see, and it's pretty thin. And then this is a wool batting. It looks a little bit loftier, and it has a totally different texture, okay? So they're totally different. What is common from batting to batting though, is that if I do this, it comes off and it's like fluff, okay? So batting on its own is not inherently stable, okay? It's not gonna add a lot of stability or security to a project. This is not fusible, this is just cotton fibers, okay? The same thing is true with this, okay? This is wool, and if I pull on it, you see wool fibers just kind of come off in a hot mess. So not inherently stable on its own. If I pull this hard enough, right, I can make these stretch and the fibers will separate, okay? So when we quilt these, this actual stitching is what is gonna provide the stability. So when you are buying batting, you're gonna see that it's gonna give you information like the loft, right, the thickness. It's also gonna give you information of how close do those stitches need to be together, every 4 inches, every 6 inches, in order to make it more stable, okay? So that is batting. It comes in cotton, wool, combos, it comes in bamboo, it comes in silk, it comes in a cotton poly blend, it comes in all different kinds of materials with all different kinds of lofts. They all have different purposes for whether you want it to be warm, lightweight, heavyweight, cooler, right? All of the things, whether you want it to be easier to hand stitch with or go on a long arm machine. So they all have different properties, and we'll do another video on that, but that is batting, okay? The next thing that you're gonna see that a lot of patterns might call for that's similar to batting, that's just fluff, is polyfill. So this is polyfill, which is just the stuff we use when I make maybe a pin cushion or a stuffed animal. So when they ask for polyfill, you're gonna get a big giant bag of it, and this is polyfill. And the tighter you pack it, the more firm that stuffed animal will be, but it is just essentially loose fluff, okay? So that's polyfill. Now, the next thing that you'll see in a lot of bag patterns, okay, is something called soft and stable. There's a couple of other different products out there. Soft and Stable is the most common. It's by Annie, is the company that makes it. She makes a lot of the bag patterns. And it is this. It is what I would like to call like foam, okay? So it's a thin foam that is gonna provide, it's gonna be soft, right? It's not super stiff, but it is stable, okay? So when I do this, it's not gonna come apart. So if you were making a bag, for example, and you don't wanna use batting because you want it to have, maybe stand up a little bit on its own, a lot of bag patterns will call for this. You can see I made a backpack with this. This is some piece I cut off. But when you quilt into it, you can see you get these like indentations and this beautiful texture when you stitch into it on your machine, okay? So this is a good alternative instead of batting for bag making because it gives you some structure so the bag can actually stand up. Blankets we want to drape beautifully. Bags we kind of want to have some stability. So this is soft and stable. Now there's a few other products out there on the market. And one of the most common ones that I see, or the two of the most common that I see are, I'll show you. And they are interfacing, okay? So this is a fusible interfacing. One side is gonna be bumpy and the other side is gonna be smooth, just like a woven fabric, okay? The bumpy side is where the fusible material, right? The glue is. So my only trick about this is that you always want the bumpy side to face the thing you're attaching it to, and you never want your iron to touch the bumps, ever, because they melt and they'll get sticky and they'll leave a residue on your iron and they could potentially scorch and cause other issues. So if you have a Teflon sheet, it's really good to use when you're using fusible materials because when I put this on and I put the Teflon over it and then I can press on my Teflon, if any of that fusible comes off, it's gonna get on the Teflon and not on your iron. But the difference between this and this is that this is not stable, right? This I can rip, it comes right apart. This this is going to provide stability. So when you are making something that you want it to be stable, I'll give you a good example, a t-shirt quilt, okay, where it's a knit fabric, you're trying to assemble knit fabrics together, but the knit fabrics all have different give and stretch in different directions. And in a t-shirt quilt, you typically are using a ton of different t-shirts. They're all going to be made out of slightly different products. Some are going to be 100% cotton, some are going to be blends, some are going to be tighter woven, etc. So by using this kind of product and adhering it to the back of all those squares, you're going to provide them with equal stability. So when you go to quilt it and you go to press it flat, they're going to be very similar. They're not going to pull in certain areas and pucker and fold and bend. So this is used a lot in that. This is also used a lot in bag making and in clothing. So a lot of times this will be used to give extra stability, maybe in a trim piece, right? In a collar. This will also be used to give extra stability, maybe in a bag handle or in a little hangy loop, a zipper tab. This can also be used in like pockets because you want to give them some stability, but you don't want to make them stiff and thick like with this, okay? You with me? Now this is a lightweight fusible interfacing. It comes in medium weight, featherweight, heavyweight, and they're just going to be different weights of fabric, and some of them are going to be stiffer than others. So different projects may call for different materials. A bunch of companies make them. The most common one that I have found is Pellon. This is SF 101. It is the basic. And then if you choose different numbers in the SF line, you're going to see that they're fusible stabilizers. Okay, so this is a stabilizer. The next thing I'm going to show you is a fusible fleece, okay? So this is kind of if the fusible interfacing and the soft and stable had a baby, okay? So it's thinner than this, thicker than this, and has just a tiny bit. So it's a little bit of fleece, and it is relatively stable. It's still fleece, so it is definitely going to provide more stability, but it's going to give it just a tiny bit of loft. Just a tiny bit, not a lot. So this is something that is also, you'll see in bag patterns, is fusible fleece. It's going to give you, like I said, just a little bit more puff than a plain fusible interface. Plain fusible interfacing will. So if you do want to quilt that fabric to add some texture or dimension to it, this is going to give it a little bit of texture. This is going to give it a lot of texture, as you can see by those lines that are stitched in there. But this is going to give it just a little bit of puff. So if you need a little bit of heft in it, that's another product you can use. Now, all of these products like this, the fusible fleeces and fusible interfacings, are going to be sold on a bolt, and they usually have instructions like a paper that's wrapped around with them. Just make sure you keep one set of those instructions, and you can just pin it directly to the fabrics so that when you go to use them, you know. A lot of times they like to be set with high heat. They want you to hold it for so many seconds, or they want you to set it with steam. So you just need to refer to those instructions for each fusible item as you use them. And on all of them, like I said, the bumpy side is typically, is always the fusible side, the side that has the glue. Now there's one other product out there that you will find sometimes that will help you stick things together, but it has no stability portion of it really, and that is Heat and Bond. This is Heat and Bond Ultra Hold. This I use for applique. So when you want more of like a raw edge applique, you cut out the you attach one side to the fabric. It's double-sided, okay? So here, this side is bumpy, just like the fusible interfacing. So you're gonna press that onto your fabric, cut out whatever shape you want, a circle, a square, a flower. And then once it's fused on, you can peel off the back, okay? And then once the back is peeled off, you can then set it where you want it on your fabric and press it again, and it will bond it to that. So Heat and Bond, it comes in a lightweight, it comes in a regular, and it comes in ultra hold, depending on what you're using it for. So this is another product you'll see a lot in quilting and in bag making, especially when applique is involved. So these are just a few of the materials that you may come across when you are quilting and sewing. It's a good idea to understand that the basic differences is that this is not stable, okay? Batting does not provide any stability to the quilt. It's the quilting that provides that stability. And that you can get it in lots of different materials, and those materials are going to look and feel very different, as you can see by how thin this cotton is compared to this wool batting, okay? Soft and stable, or flex foam. You'll see it called a bunch of different things. Somebody said that it's the same thing that they make like car roof interiors out of, that like fuzzy, you know, It's kind of soft, but not really. So this I use a lot, and I usually will just buy it. It comes in bags, and you can buy a big bag of it and use it. You can piece leftovers of both Soft and Stable and these two products together. So let's say I have some scraps. Obviously I would want them to have straight edges, so I wouldn't use this piece that's ripped, but you would, if they have straight edges like this, you could take two pieces together and attach them. We sometimes call that Frankenbatting, and it's just a way of bringing those pieces together like Frankenstein zigzag stitches, to bring those together. Typically once they're inside of a quilt and you quilt it, you'll never know that they've been pieced together. But I like to make use of all of my scraps as much as possible whenever I can. So I hope this helps clarify some of these different products you may encounter in the patterns that you're reading. And if you have any further questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel for more quilting and sewing content. I hope to see you real soon.